Okay, so here's the mise en place for our chocolate crinkle cookies, and we're gonna do the creaming method with the mixer. So we have our mixer here, a mixer bowl, and a paddle attachment. We have our solid fat and sugar in this bowl. We have our egg and vanilla here, dry ingredients, and then our mixing, which is gonna be our chocolate chips. We have parchment and a sheet pan on the other side. I'm not sure if you can see, there's a purple scoop. And then we have a spatula so we can scrape as we go. Whoop! But that's all of our mise en place, so we can go ahead and get started. So, we're going to do this recipe with the creaming method, but first I need to show you a little bit about this mixer. So this is called a stand mixer, and it's typically what is used in the industry for all mixing. Comes in lots and lots of sizes. This is a very small one. But they are much, much larger as well. This is a nice tabletop one. So to get started, I already have my ingredients stacked scaled in this bowl, and I'm going to attach the bowl to the mixer. So you're going to look for these little arms on the side, column with holes, and they're going to go into the pegs on the arms of the mixer. So you're going to look and fit those in. On the back of the mixer bowl, there's a little knob here, and that's going to fit right into this little divot right here. So what you're going to do is you're going to line up the holes on either side into the knobs, and then you're going to lock this back knob in place so you should be able to hear it. So I'm going to push down on the back of the bowl until I hear it snap. And now I know it's in place. So next, I'm going to put in my paddle attachment. You never want to add your attachments. So the most common attachments we use in the bake shop are a paddle, hook, and whisk or whip attachment. This is what we use for the creaming method. It's called the paddle attachment, even though I think it looks more like a leaf, but think about paddle if you're like paddling down the stream, right? I don't know why I walked when I did that. Do you walk when you paddle? Anyway, this is a paddle attachment. So, on the top there's a hole. There's a hole here in the top, and then there's just like this little rectangular section that comes off. And if you look, I'm not sure if you can see it or not, but there's a little peg here. So this little notch, this rectangular notch here, you're going to aim to put on that peg. So I'm going to put it in, and then I'm going to twist. And if I don't twist, if I do like that, it'll just kind of fall back out. So you see that's not really attached. But if I go and I twist, and when I'm twisting, that peg that's on here is coming through this notch down here, and then it's getting locked into this notch. So that's what you're looking for when you're putting on your attachment. It's good to make sure that it's nice and locked in. And then we're going to lock in these little, I don't know, knob on the side. I will tell you that in the industry, most of these either don't exist or have been broken or have been purposely taken them off. So throughout the year, you will see me not using it, and it's not because I'm trying to do something wrong. It's just because I've done it for so many years without it that I don't even think about it. Feel free to correct me every single time because it is better because it keeps the bowl nice and locked in and won't let it fall out. So on the other side of our mixer, so hope you can see it on the screen where you can see me. There's an arm that if I push back will lift the bowl up. So if I try to mix it like this, you can see it's not really doing anything, right? So I have to lift the arm up. Alright, so the next thing are our controls. There's an on and off, and then there's speeds. Every mixer has different speeds. So this one has 3 speeds. We have mixers in the back that have 4 speeds. My mixer at home has 10 speeds. So I don't typically say 1, 2, or 3. I'll say low, medium, high. Because on this machine, 3 is high. But on mine at home that has 10 speeds, 3 is still pretty low. So I usually like to say low, medium, high, so you know exactly what I'm talking about. Mixers are all different as well as far as a transmission. Most industrial mixers do not contain a transmission, so that means to change speeds, you need to turn the machine off, wait for it to stop, and then change the speeds. There's just not enough room in here for the transmission because it's so powerful. The one that I have at home does have a transmission, but it's nowhere near as powerful or as durable as this machine. So very important that if you're changing speeds, you completely turn the machine off, because you can grind up the gears in the motor not doing that. And these machines are very, very expensive. They're like $3,000 to $5,000, so we do not want to hurt them. All right, so I have my bowl locked in, my paddle attachment locked in, my bowl is raised. I always want to make sure I'm on first speed whenever I start anything, just so I don't get stuff in my face, because sometimes the person before us has left it on third speed, so we want to double check. And then we're going to turn it on. So with our creaming method, we're mixing our fat, our solid fat, in this case is butter, and our sugar until it's light and fluffy. So if I start on first speed, I know that I can go up a little bit. In the creaming method, I can go at a little higher speed. So I can go up second speed and see how I completely turn it off. And then I can let it go and get a little bit more light and fluffy. And while that's going, I can look at my other ingredients. So in the creaming method, we want all of our dry combined before we add it. So while this is going, that's one nice thing about the mixer is it's doing its job and I can do other things. As opposed to a hand mixer or doing it by hand, I'm not really freed up to do anything else. So I can go ahead and combine this. So got my baking soda, my salt, my cocoa powder, and my flour. So this is a very chocolatey cookie, and most recipes, if you have cocoa powder, it's kind of like replacing some of the flour that would have been in the original cookie. So that's why there's a smaller amount of flour in this recipe than you might see in like a chocolate chip cookie recipe or something like that. And I'm going to put you on pause because I have a timer going off, and I need to check my oven. Okay, so in the pastry kitchen, we've got lots of things going on. You're often going to walk away from something because something else is going on. So it's just stuff to keep in mind. So I had to kind of give a pause. But that's one nice thing about a mixer is it continued to cream while I was checking on my oven. So it's looking nice and light and fluffy now, which is perfect. So I can go ahead and scrape this bowl. And you can scrape the bowl while it's in the mixer, or you can take it off. It's a little faster, but you're going to get a better scraping job done if you take it off. Now notice that I'm going really to the bottom. There's kind of a knob in the bottom of the bowl that stuff can get caught in. And I'm also scraping the paddle because things can get caught in the paddle. We don't want that. And we do want to scrape the bowl periodically. I actually already scraped the bowl once while in between my oven was going off. So you do want to do it periodically. So now it's time to add my eggs gradually. So I have one egg. How can I add one egg gradually? That's right. I mix it up first. Just a little bit, not trying to mix any air into it. And you could argue, like, I could not mix it, I could just add, some of it in. But if you did that, you might add only egg white in, right? Like the egg white can go, the yolk can stay back in the bowl. And you won't have any emulsifier. So remember, the egg yolk has lecithin in it, which is an emulsifier, which helps bring that liquid and the fat and the butter together. So you have to have that egg yolk. So that's why it's so important that we mix it before we add it. If we were doing a giant batch and it had 40 eggs in there, you would not have to mix it because you would be able to add whole eggs and those egg yolks would be incorporated. But only because there's just one egg would we do that. So we mix just like that until that addition is completely incorporated. So important that you mix it until it's all the way incorporated. And you could see, like, I could have used a whisk to whisk my egg together. I could have used a whisk to do my dry ingredients together, but I already have the spatula dirty and I know I need a spatula. Something we have to think about as pastry chefs is how do we do stuff the most efficiently, and using less dishes is always more efficient. So then I can go ahead and add my second egg now that everything's nice and scraped down. Ooh, my second addition of egg, not my second egg. And then I can add that until it's fully combined. And then remember, we're gonna add our dry all at once. And as soon as we add flour to something with moisture and we agitate it, that's when we start getting gluten formation. And anytime we're making cookies, we do not want a high gluten content. We want them to be nice and tender. So I'm gonna mix this as little as possible. I do have a mix-in, which is gonna be my chocolate chips. It could be anything. But because of that, I'm only gonna mix this till it's like 90% mixed so that I don't end up over mixing it when I then add my chocolate chips. So go ahead and add this. And this doesn't take very long, so it's not necessarily something I'm gonna step away from. Like the creaming of the butter and sugar takes a little bit of time, so it wasn't a big deal for me to go check on my oven. Oh my God, I missed so much. I was paying attention to this camera and not looking over here, and look how much I missed. Right here, folks, this is why we clean and sanitize all of our surfaces, so that when we have little mishaps like this, whoop, it's not all is lost. Although now I do a bigger mess to clean up. It's another good argument for mixing all your dry ingredients together, because if all that was like my baking soda, these cookies would turn out terrible. And my oven's going off again, so I'm going to pause right here and I'm going to come back and mix it. Because remember, I don't want to overmix this, so I want to watch it. So I can pause, go check on my oven, and come back. Now, everything's out of the oven, so I should be able to finish this just fine. Now I'm going to go ahead and mix in my flour. I do want to make sure I take it from second speed and put it onto first speed, because I don't want all that flour and cocoa powder to go everywhere. And cocoa powder is just the worst to clean up off of you. And it also kind of like you breathe it in if it does that, and you got like this like cocoa lung. That's what I call it. It's like, you know, you hear about coal miners having coal lung. As bakers, we have cocoa lung. Tastes a little better. But anyway, I also like to pulse it sometimes just to make sure I can kind of see that it's not gonna go crazy, which doesn't look like it is. So that's good. And I'm just gonna let this mix until it's almost done. Maybe just a second more. Yeah, there we go. So you can see there's still some like kind of striations of butter and fat that haven't quite mixed in. But that's okay, because I still have a little bit of mixing left to go, and it'll all get mixed in together. And then I'll add my chocolate chips. And I am using mini chocolate chips. I just think they're a little nicer for this kind of cookie. Since it's already chocolate, you don't need like these giant bursts of chocolate like you like in a chocolate chip, regular chocolate chip cookie. So I kind of like the mini ones. You could totally omit them too. These cookies are awesome without the chocolate chips, so they're not even necessary either. So you don't have to even add them, but they are nice. So got everything nice and scraped. So now I can add my mini chocolate chips. Little tip for you, if you are in the industry and you're buying them by case, the size is referred to by the count. So 4,000 count would be tiny ones, and 1,000 count would be big ones. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and do this, and I'm gonna watch it until it's completely mixed. I'll probably give it a little scrape, and then I'll mix it just one more time. This is done, and see, I always forget. You can probably see this is a little bit softer than a lot of cookie doughs or other cookies dough were. It's a little bit softer, and it's supposed to be. That's what's gonna kind of help it spread a little bit more, which is gonna give that crackle top, which you'll see in a little bit. So there's nothing wrong here, but this, because it's a little soft, we also will chill it. And you have options. You can chill it now, or you can chill it after it's scooped. Kind of pros and cons. If you chill it now, it takes a lot longer because it's a big quantity. If you wait and do it after you scoop, it's going to chill a lot faster. But it also is a little easier to scoop when it's hard. Just when it comes out of your scoop a little bit easier. So I can show you what that looks like. So I can scoop. So I can either use the side of my bowl or use my hand. Make sure, of course, it's a clean hand. And then I can deposit it. So, usually, the first couple are pretty easy. Sometimes especially when it's really warm, it can be a little bit harder. And it kind of starts to get stuck to the scoops, but I seem to be doing okay. I prefer to do it this method, scooping and then refrigerating. Like I said, it's going to chill a lot faster when it's small. And that's something that we talk about a lot with our food safety when we're trying to cool down food. The smaller you can get it, or the more air surface you can give it, the faster it's going to go. So this is going to go way faster and way more even. If I just put this mixer bowl in the refrigerator, the outside is going to chill much faster than the inside. So this will go way faster and way more even. So I'm just going to keep going until I've scooped out all of the cookie dough. My cookie dough has been in the fridge for about 20 or 30 minutes, so you can see that it's firmed up, which is going to make it much easier for us to go ahead and coat it in powdered sugar. And you want to get sure they're nice and coated, and then shake off a little bit of that excess. So all you're going to do is just keep going through here, just like that. And then you'll see these will spread. And as they spread, you'll see these little cracks form, which is really fun. So you can see this like stark white of the powdered sugar with this beautiful chocolate peeking through the cracks. It's going to be gorgeous. But you do want to do this at last minute. This dough freezes really well, just like the sugar cookies and the chocolate chip cookies we did. But just like with the sugar cookies, you don't want to do this before you freeze it, because all of this sugar will melt and kind of give this like weird sliminess on the outside. So this is always the last minute. Even if you're making the dough this morning and for some reason you're not baking it until this afternoon, you definitely just want to do this right before it goes in the oven. So I'm going to go ahead and do all of these, and then we can get them in the oven. Okay, so our cookies are ready to come out of the oven. The trick about these cookies is they're dark. So there's not really a telltale sign that they're perfect or they're going to be over or something like that. So I usually just like to do trial and error with my oven, so I know here that it takes 10 minutes to bake these perfectly. So I'm going to open it up. Wait. Hot oven! Got it. And I'm going to open it up. And unfortunately, and sometimes this happens in Virginia, especially in July, which is right now, it's really humid. So some of our powdered sugar did kind of fade away, but it still has that nice little kind of crackled look that that's why they're called Crinkle cookies. But it's not exactly like the sharp white to dark, but I'm still happy with it. If I wasn't happy with it, I could put some powdered sugar on it and call it a day. I could have chilled these a little bit longer just to really ensure that that didn't happen, but I'm still getting it for most of them. And honestly, I need to go home. So sometimes we make those decisions. But anyway, it's been exactly 10 minutes. I rotated them at the 5-minute mark, so I knew that they were baking evenly. Again, you can't really tell. I could bake this another 20 minutes and you not really be able to see a color change. So very important that you kind of test your oven. So this was 350 degrees in my oven for 10 minutes at this size. If you were making, tiny little cookies, obviously they do it faster. If you're making giant cookies, obviously they take longer. So if you were doing this at home and your scoop is a different size, or you were scooping them by hand or whatever, what I would recommend that you do is take one or two and bake them for about how long you think it might be, and then try them. If they're overcooked, then you need to reduce your time. If they're undercooked, then you need to add some time. But these are gonna cool, and that's all she wrote on those.